Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the We Get to Do This podcast.
We got to talk with Brooke Bjorge. She's a sports dietitian and owner of Grit Sports Nutrition. We got to dive deep into all things hydration, electrolyte imbalance, getting enough sodium, what does that look like, how do we test for that, which was a very fun episode because, well, one, I think we're heading into another very hot summer, and it seems like things keep getting hotter, which means more sweat and more need for hydration. And it's fun hearing more about the science side of this because I feel like we get these questions all the time from our athletes on how much is enough, what electrolytes should I be taking, how much, and
Yeah, Brooke, thanks for coming on all the way from Bozeman. I've known her for a little while now too, which is it's been really cool getting to know more and more people from across the nation now and learning from everyone. But this is going to be one of those episodes where I'd recommend pulling a notebook out because you're going to want to take some notes. You might want to pause it and put some pen to paper on different things. I was doing that the whole time, and I'm sure you will too. So, Brooke, thanks again for being on. And as always, if you do enjoy the podcast, especially an episode like this, and you're sharing it with friends, that would be amazing. Also, if you could leave us a rating and a review, we would greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the episode, y'all.
thanks for being here. We get to do this.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the We Get to Do This podcast. We are joined by Brooke Bjorge today, and super pumped to have her here. Brooke, I've known you we probably know each other for a couple of years now, and I might butcher the connection between Kaylee and you, but my understanding is that while we were both working with, who actually Taylor and Christine were just on our podcast 2 episodes back. So we were both working with Taylor and Christine through Thomas Endurance Coaching. I believe then Kaylee, through Anna, who was also on our podcast, met you. And then you were like, oh, wait, I also know Jacob. And it was this big, weird connection, which just goes to show you how small the fitness endurance world especially is. Did I do that justice? Is that right? Is that how that connection was? So
I
thanks for
think it's
being
close
here today.
enough. Close enough.
So we always start every podcast by asking our guests, who are you, what do you do, and why do you do it? So Brooke, who are you, what do you do, and why do you do it?
All right. Who am I? I am a mom. I have 3 kids and they keep me very, very busy. I'm also an endurance athlete and have been for 18 plus years. I started off with a little bit of running and then quickly got sucked into the triathlon world and did a lot of racing, all different distances, multiple Ironmans, that kind of thing. And then now I'm a single mom with these kids. They're 10, 8, and 5, which running a business, I work a second job, I train for events. I'm like, okay, triathlon is just a little bit out of the question right now. So now I've transitioned into ultra running. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And that's what my race goals are for this year. I own and have since 2012 my own nutrition counseling business for endurance athletes. When I first came out of Arizona State with my master's in nutrition, I thought I was going to work with a totally different clientele, eating disorder patients. And as I kind of progressed through my program, I was like, no, I want to work in the endurance community because that's where my heart was at personally with these big events that I was checking off. So I came right out of school, started my business, and then I've had it running. It's switched names in those years, but now it's Grit Sports Nutrition. I changed it to that when I moved to Montana because Montana is a gritty place to live. So, but yeah, I do sweat testing and fuel planning for endurance athletes. Okay, so that's kind of who am I and what do I do? And then why do I do it? That's the best question. Why do we do endurance sports? I get this question a lot from people, especially people who are like, you're a single mom of 3. Like, how can you fit in the time to do that? And the reason that I do the actual sports, the running events or the triathlons or whatever it is the same reason that I run my business. And it's to inspire people to access the best possible version of themselves and to let people know that they are truly capable of doing anything as long as they have the desire to do it and the tenacity to get the training done and the races done. So, yeah.
Mhm. I love it. Well, I'm getting into triathlons, and Kaylee's a huge ultra runner. So that's pretty stinging exciting. And I will say that swimming specifically, I feel as though I've been doing it for what, 3 months now? It might be like the hardest, at least learning so far. It might be one of the hardest things I've done. It is so hard for me and so humbling. So I'm excited I'm doing my first triathlon in July. So I'm excited to break into that world a little bit and experience a whole different level of pain. It should be
That's
interesting.
That's exciting. And like just having the perspective of having done both with just running and then triathlon. When I transitioned back to running, I was like, wow, this is so simple compared to three sports. Because it's a lot of gear for three sports, but triathlon is a beautiful thing. I hope you enjoy your first race. And if you have more questions in that area, oh, I'm your girl. I know a lot about triathlon.
What's the longest ultra you've done so far? Or what are you training for?
So 50K is the longest I've done so far. I was supposed to have 100K in July. I'm coming back from a long injury and then also a surgery in February. And so I made the decision a couple of weeks ago to shift down to the 55K for this race. I just don't want to hurt myself. And so I'm like, you know what? There's plenty of time to build. And so I'm trying to go about it conservatively. And so that I'll have the 55K and then I'll have a 50 miler in the fall and then next year 100K the year after 100 miler.
Fun. Yeah, very smart to not try to push through the injury. I was just curious because I've done few sprint triathlons before, but never anything longer than that. And I've been told that Ironmans aren't as hard as 100 milers. And I feel like Ironman just sounds like so hard in my opinion. Like the idea of all of those things together, like that sounds so hard. So I was just curious.
The hard thing, and I don't have the comparison of the 100 miler yet. It will be interesting and I'll definitely give it to you when I have it. But the thing about an Ironman that's nice is that just about when you're about to just give up the event forever, whether it's the swim or the bike, you transition to the next event. So it's like, oh my gosh, I can't sit on my bike anymore. Okay, now I'm running, So there's variation in there. Whereas like running, 100 miler or 200 or three, you're running or you're hiking. You're running or you're hiking,
Just
so
sitting there for a long
yeah,
time.
yeah. So
Well, kudos to you for doing Ironmans. That still sounds really hard.
Yeah, I feel like my biggest thing with the 100, I haven't done any 100 milers yet. The furthest I've gone is 50.
okay.
With the 100 miler though versus like an Ironman, also have done, but I'm more drawn towards the Ironman because of everything you just said, and because I don't have to stay up the entire night. I
Oh,
really
true.
do not. Like what I'm looking forward to the least is
I know.
destroying my sleep specifically,
Yeah. I hear you.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
Just run faster.
yeah, I could try that. I guess I could try that. Oh, okay, let's do that. I'm gonna run faster.
Go for a 16-hour one.
Yeah. So Brooke, you're also still doing things with precision hydration and sweat tests and things like that, right?
I sure am. Yeah, I've been doing that testing for a decade now. And that is the gold standard test to determine how salty your sweat is. And for endurance athletes, it's really important to know how much salt you're losing so that you can accurately know how much you need to be replacing. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. I've become sort of a hydration wizard over the years, I guess, just in realizing how important it is for um, all endurance sports, really. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's become quite the buzzword:
Mhm.
hydration, electrolytes, sweat. I'm curious, can we start and define what even is hydration? Like, how do we, what is that when we talk about that in the endurance world?
Yeah, you're right, because everyone throws these terms around, and unless you're a dietitian who's a hydration nerd like me, like you don't, how would you know, right? So a hydration, like having your hydration optimized means that your fluid and your electrolyte intake are exactly where they need to be. With both fluid and electrolytes, you can underconsume or you can overconsume. And they're so closely related, the two, that you really can't separate them apart. And if you do, if you focus just on fluid intake with no electrolyte supplementation, it's going to be a very long day, depending on how salty your sweat is, how much you're sweating, and the length of your race. There's a lot of variation from person to person when we talk about sweat rate, which is the volume of what you lose over a given period of time. So like let's use a 1 hour run as an example. People are going to have a different sweat rate. Everyone's, it's going to be varied. It depends on genetics. So there's a genetic factor. It also depends on heat, humidity, elevation, your fitness level, clothing. The list goes on and on. So sweat rate is changing throughout the year. Sweat composition, which is what my testing actually tests, is how salty your sweat is. This is a genetically determined factor and does not change doesn't change enough to warrant retesting. So once people have the test done in my office, they don't have to keep retesting. But again, um, people are losing all different amounts of sodium. The human body is amazing. So I'll have one person come in and they're losing, 300 milligrams of sodium per hour. The other person that comes in is losing 2,400 milligrams of sodium per hour. So you can
Yeah.
see there that if people don't understand what they're losing, then you can run into some real issues with either over or under replacing. So that's what I help people determine. And hydration it plays such a huge part again in endurance sports that it's just a necessity, in my opinion, to have a firm understanding of what your optimized hydration plan should be.
Right. I like that definition. So essentially, it's equilibrium of some sort, whatever it means for you, of your water intake and electrolyte intake. You had said sodium specifically. This is a great learning opportunity for me. So, is it just sodium we need to be worried about? Do we need to worry about other electrolytes as well? Does that, like, in terms of if we're thinking about hydration throughout the day / in races and things like that, on that in
Yeah.
that specific category?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have 6 electrolytes. You really only need to be worrying about sodium as far as an hour by hour replacement of the electrolytes because the other ones are lost in small amounts. Sodium, like we talked about, you can lose it in small amounts if you're the type of person whose body holds on to sodium, or you can lose it in very large amounts. Sodium is in charge of so many essential functions in the body that if it gets outside of the range that it's optimal at, which is not a very large range, you can run into a lot of different issues. So some of those that impact endurance athletes would be, you know, muscle contraction. So sodium's in charge or plays a huge role in muscle contraction, nerve impulses, cognitive function, breaking down of fuel in the GI tract, fluid balance. You can see as I list these off that if you're a runner out doing a 100 miler and some of these things start getting, if your sodium drops and you start getting compromised in some of these areas, muscle contraction alone, hello, that's like cramps, really bad cramps, right? Eventually. The cognitive function piece is important with longer endurance events too, because we want to be sharp in our decision making. And so that can be negatively impacted. The breaking down of fuel in the GI system is also huge because if your sodium levels aren't at the place where your body can efficiently break down fuel, what's going to happen to the fuel that's in your stomach? It's going to either stay there and create stomach issues, or it's going to come out one of two ways without being metabolized properly. So again, sodium is it's a game changer when it's handled well.
Yeah, because I've had the muscle cramps and the cognitive function makes sense. I I've thought about that a lot. When you said the GI distress, I didn't know that. I hadn't thought of that. I didn't realize that played such a big role there. Cause I was curious with like GI distress specifically. I'm like, you hear people all the time that, and I understand that could be a lot of different things with this, but like I hit mile 22 of a marathon and my stomach freaked out. I was fine the whole time. Or I hit mile 80 of an ultra, stomach freaked out. I was fine, the whole time.
Yeah.
And so that, like, it could be like a carb thing or an underfueling thing, maybe overfueling thing, but there's a good chance that could also be related to like an imbalance in our sodium electrolyte to hydration of some sort.
Yeah. You're right. It's not, I wish I could be like, oh, it's always hydration. That would be such a great sell for that, for the precision hydration sweat test. But what I'm finding is after doing this for so many years, a lot of the time it is hydration. Or maybe it's a mix of hydration and fueling. With the fueling aspect of it, it's interesting because when you think about being at mile 80 of an ultra and you think about what you're eating, generally, most people are, yes, they might be consuming some real food or solids, but they're relying on a sports drink, most likely gels, that kind of thing. Our bodies are not used to taking that in on a day-to-day basis, or hopefully we're not used to. So there's a component of that going on too, where it's like, it's a shock to the system, even though you might be trialing things out during training. We all know that race day is a very different beast, and sometimes the body doesn't behave the same way as it does in training. But yeah, hydration, it's often a culprit, and sometimes it teams up with the fuel to create issues, or sometimes it just kind of manifests issues on its own if it's not dialed in.
Can you talk about that test a little more? Because I know I was looking it up online because I've not done this myself before, but it looks like I've heard of the treadmill sweat test where you get hooked up to stuff and you're getting labs drawn, but it looks like this is different than that. Like, what is the process like?
Yeah, there's so many different tests out there now. And a few minutes ago, when I mentioned it's the gold standard, the reason for that is consistency in results. So a lot of those tests that are like, mail away tests, you could take 15 tests and you could come up with 15 different results. Well, the people coming in and testing with me, they're like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm here to eliminate the guesswork. I want to know what I actually should be doing. And so that's the value of this test is if I were to repeat it 15 times on the person, it should not change. And so that's something really cool. But yeah, so it is the actual test that I do in my office. It's putting a couple electrodes on the forearm. There's a little gel disc that goes underneath it. And so the person is just sitting. Oftentimes, people would come in like in full workout stuff expecting to get on the treadmill. And I'm like, no, you just need to sit. That's all you got to do. But I put electrodes on the arm, put a little electrical current through it for a few minutes. It stimulates the sweat glands to release a little bit of sweat, and then I collect it and run it through my equipment. It's a little box like this big. I've traveled with it to do testing in other places. It's portable, but it is, that's what we run the tiny amount of sweat through to determine how salty the person's sweat is. Now, to determine sweat rate, because remember that I need both of those pieces of information to really optimize the hydration plan, I'll have people do a field test on themselves where they go for an hour run or do an hour workout at a decent intensity. And then I'm calculating their sweat rate from a before weight and an after weight and whatever might have been consumed fluid wise during. So that's how the test is run. It takes an hour in my office. The first half hour is the test, and then the second half is developing the hydration plan. So it's very easy.
So we need to get Brooke out here,
Yeah.
and
When can you call?
he can do. Okay, so it calculates sodium loss, and then you said sweat rate.
Yeah.
I might have missed this. What's sweat rate versus sodium
Okay,
loss?
sweat rate is like what if you were going to go out for an hour run, and you were to weigh before and after, that's your sweat rate. So that's what you're losing over any given period of time, the volume of sweat, compared to my test is the concentration of the how salty your sweat is. So
Okay.
yeah.
Does that change? Like, so I did Javelina 100 in October. Super dry, hot.
Yeah.
And then we also live in Minnesota. And so, also with Montana, like it's very cold also. Does it not change then, like based off of the different climates, or like gets super humid in the summer here?
Yeah, and I actually use Javelina 100 as my example when I'm talking to ultra runners about with their recommendations, and I'm like, "Now, if you're going to Arizona to do Javelina 100, we're gonna need to do an extra preload," and there's some definite, like, specifications surrounding that. So that's a really good question. When someone comes in and tests with me, and they will get a ratio of fluid to sodium that is perfect for them, of what they need to be following. What does change with different climates, so summer in Minnesota compared to winter in Montana, is the amount of fluid that you're going to be drinking because the ratio stays the same. So if I need to be consuming, for example, 500 milligrams of sodium per 16 ounces, that's going to stay the same. But if I go do Javelina 100, I'm maybe not drinking 16 ounces per hour. I'm going to be drinking 24 ounces per hour. So my sodium intake is going to go up as a result of that ratio increasing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What about, I'm so intrigued. What about humidity? Like versus dry? Does that
Yeah.
make any difference with
It
that?
does. So here's the deal. It all comes down, your hourly fluid recommendation all comes down to what your sweat rate is. So if you're going to go out and run in humidity, you're going to be most likely pouring out sweat because that's what humidity does. Just pulls it right out of you.
Right.
So ideally, an athlete wants to do a sweat rate test on that's the one that you can do on your own. So it's a way before and after a workout and assess the losses. You want to do kind of mirror that as close to your race day as possible. That isn't always a possibility. So if you're going to go do to Hawaii and do the Hurt 100, right, you might not be able to do a sweat rate test. So you have to kind of as closely as possible determine what your recommendations might be. But yeah, generally people are going to sweat. Well, and people do sweat in dry climates. It just evaporates. So it doesn't feel as sweaty as the humid climates. So
Right, which is almost where you can kind of get in trouble like during the race then, right? Because like I had a client last year who I wish she would have listened to all this that did Javelina 100 and essentially took in way more electrolyte tabs than he was drinking water. And
Oh,
um, not that he wasn't drinking water. I'm assuming that like so essentially the imbalance was that the electrolytes were too high for the amount of water he was drinking, right?
wow.
Anyways, he ended up dehydrating himself. Like he had dehydration in the opposite kind of direction, I guess, of what you would expect it to be, right? Of not drinking or taking anything, and he took too
Yeah.
much, right?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah, hypernatremia, and that's actually I don't see that as often. So hyper is high blood sodium and hyponatremia is low blood sodium. Usually it's happening the other way where somebody is over consuming water and not taking in enough sodium. And so you can run into issues both ways. And unfortunately, the symptoms of hyper and hyponatremia are kind of similar. And so sometimes people don't know, oh my gosh, have I been taking in too much or too little? Which is always why I'm grateful when people, when athletes come in and test, because then we just eliminate, then you're just not guessing. So yeah, it's a pretty necessary test in my opinion. If you really want to race endurance, long distances and don't have a good understanding of what your losses are.
If someone has not taken your test yet and they're going to go run a 100-miler next week, would you recommend somebody overdo electrolytes or underdo electrolytes? Like, neither are obviously good, but you like chances are, because you said you don't
always see hypernatremia. Like, again, I know both are really bad, but
Yeah.
really
So
good.
I think generally the average recommendation is like 500 to 800 milligrams per hour. I would rather see people overdo it if we're going to choose between one or the other, because the overdoing it, like I said, doesn't happen as often. And oftentimes in a race, things happen where if you're taking salt capsules, you might drop them. Or if you might drop a flask, or you're that's why it's more common to underdo it than over. And then this is a whole different topic, but like food that you would pick up from the aid station, I don't even count that towards athletes' sodium recommendation, because most of that is so low. Unless you're grabbing a jar of pickle juice and drinking the entire thing, most of the food is so low that it's not even counted towards the totals of what people need. So just a tangent there. But yeah, I would say I'd prefer people go a little over than under.
Okay, so like if we're using that analogy, 500 milligrams of sodium, and then how much water ounces do you think roughly?
That is going to require, I mean, there really isn't, I don't know that I really have an average for people. That would require a sweat rate test where you at least have some idea. And let me expand on that a little bit more. So let's say if someone goes out and and there's calculations online where you can determine sweat rate, and there's also instructions on how to do it. I just run a standard protocol when I run it on my athletes who are going to come in and do my test with me. But if you go out for a run and you lose, let's say you lose whatever pound difference would equate to like calculating you're losing 40 ounces per hour. You don't need to replace 40 ounces of water per hour if that's what you're sweating out. You want to replace 50 to 75% of that. So that becomes a lot more manageable, where someone's like, oh, cool. Okay, I'm drinking 20 to 30 ounces. I'm not drinking 40 ounces per hour. So that's, kind of how you manage um, sweat rate. Did that answer your question? Or
Yeah. Well, and I think in today's, like you're saying, right, today's world, like we have the tools, and I'm actually shocked we haven't done this. So next time we're in Montana, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
for sure. Come see
and
me.
I haven't even done a sweat rate. So a lot of W's and R's in that
Yeah, it is.
test. And that was,
Yeah.
I have like light bulb memories, moments of reading about those actually, in like training and coaching books
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff. I still haven't even
Yeah.
done that. Um, I
Well, let me ask you a question really quick. Can I ask
Yeah,
you a question?
yeah,
Would you
please.
consider yourself a low, moderate, or heavy sweater?
I'm a very heavy sweater. I would consider
Okay.
myself a very cool sweater.
Okay. And then would you consider your sweat to be salty? And sometimes that's a hard question to answer, but usually it's like sometimes you can look at your clothes and be like, "Oh, it's a lot of white stains," although that's not always the answer there. But like if sweat runs in your eyes, it burns your eyes, that kind of thing. Any idea there?
I would say I'm low to moderate on that,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay. So
Oh,
the interesting thing is that they don't go together. So it's not like if you have a high sweat rate, you're going to be a salty sweater, or vice versa. You can be they're two separate things. If you do happen to be a heavy sweater and a salty sweater, you're just going to be taking in more sodium and more water, you know?
right.
So that's something that I like to point out, is that, those two variables are not related. And it's interesting too, because if you like, okay, so you're a heavy sweater and you think you're maybe low as far as sodium losses. I'm a light sweater, but I'm salty. So if we went for a run together over an hour, we might lose the same amount of sodium, just in different ways. You're sweating more out, but it's less concentrated, and I'm sweating less, but it's when I do, it's very salty. So just
That's wild.
I know.
Why
Yeah.
is there like a reason for that? Like, is there like why that makes me think of like when Kaylee and I go and sit in the sauna for 10 minutes.
Mhm.
In a minute, I'm very sweaty. And it takes
Yeah.
Kaylee 10 minutes to get sweaty. Is there a
Yeah.
reason for that across
If
any?
if there is I mean, there is a quite large genetic factor in it too. I think just kind of anecdotally over the years, like males my male clients generally sweat more than female clients. It's not always. But when it comes to how much sodium your body lets go of, that's truly fascinating because there's a mechanism in the body that either decides, yes, I'm going to hold on to sodium or I'm going to let it go. And that's what's really interesting to me is like, why? Why is that? Why are some people losing a lot and other people, their bodies are holding on to it? So, kind of wherever you are with sweat rate and sweat composition, you're kind of stuck with it, you know, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, again, accounting for your losses. I have had some people over the years who are like heavy, heavy sweaters and salty, salty sweaters. And when I get that information, like when I finish their test, I'm like, okay, you're going to be taking in a lot of sodium and we got to do a lot of fluid per hour too. And the more consistent you can be with it, the better off that you're going to do. And it's proven to be true again and again and again. So it's just kind of the cards that you're dealt with or that you're dealt.
Fascinating.
Do you have then, so somebody's a heavy sweater, what are your recommendations then for replenishing? Like, do you have go-to electrolyte sources and companies, brands?
Yeah. Because I've been doing the precision hydration test for so long, I'm a big fan of their products. I owned triathlon stores back in the day, and I first brought their product line in to my stores when they were just starting out, and now they've exploded in popularity. They're on a lot of the race courses. They have truly made a big name for themselves. And it's because their products are high quality and very unlikely to cause GI issues. The majority of people that try them are like, that works well for me. And the interesting thing is there's not a lot of flavor options with them compared to like a Scratch, which is a very similar uh, type company, I would say, when it comes to hydration products. Scratch has a bunch of different flavors. Precision Hydration with their sports nutrition drinks, it's really just a mild citrus flavor in all of them, but it works well for almost everybody. So those two I would say are the ones that I recommend the most. I know a lot of ultra runners are using Tailwind. I'm good with that. Here's the main secret when it comes to these products is the type of sodium that's in the product. Sodium citrate. That's what you want. You don't want sodium chloride. So a lot of products like Salt Stick, for example, the capsules that have been around for a long time, they're going to have sodium chloride. There's many, many other product lines that use that type of sodium. It's just not as kind to the system as sodium citrate is. So I definitely would go towards sodium citrate.
Is that why my stomach gets upset when I do sodium, if I do a sodium chloride one? Is that like one of the issues with that?
Yeah, because it's more likely to cause GI issues, less likely to be absorbed efficiently, more likely to create an acidic environment in your body. You want as alkaline environment as possible. But I've had people kind of field test this over and over again with sodium citrate versus sodium chloride, and chloride is more likely to create issues. It's the same thing if you were going to take like a magnesium supplement. A lot of people I know do at night for various reasons. I would not recommend taking a magnesium chloride supplement because chloride is known to be more abrasive to the system. Citrate is a buffer. Citrate is going to be kinder to your body. So if you're going to go out and push your body to do an Ironman or a 100-mile running race, like by all means, use products that are going to be kind to your body.
I like the idea of well, okay, we definitely need to have you back on because I want to talk to you about carbs, and I feel like that
Mhm.
deserves an entire like 40 minutes,
Yeah.
especially because I still have like another one or two questions specifically about electrolytes too. Do you have any other electrolyte things?
Sodium chloride, is that like what's in like a sea, like a Himalayan sea
Yeah.
salt?
Yes.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also what's in all of our food. So table salt is sodium chloride. So I'm not suggesting that you stop eating, But when people are selecting their main sodium source for training and racing, it's focusing on one that's sodium citrate. I still have clients work in, solid foods that are, real food type stuff, and you're going to have sodium chloride in there, but it seems to impact us differently than in like sports nutrition form. So,
Now I want to look at all my products.
Same. I'm gonna do that.
I know
BPN.
I know most of them, so you can rattle off a couple of them.
We can expose a bunch of companies right now. We have no ties. None of us have any
Yeah.
ties. We could expose a bunch. I could go grab a couple. We can walk through all of them.
And
Um,
there's other ones out there besides Precision and Scratch, but those are two that I've had a lot of experience with. And Scratch has capsules that are sodium citrate, and they just work well for most people. So they're electrolyte capsules. So I'm a fan of them. I know the product line very well. So
I love Precision. I used them for CAM 3 years ago now. Wow, 4 years ago?
2.
No, I think it's been 3 or 4.
Okay.
The first time. Anyways, their gels are awesome, and I also have used their capsules too. Now I'm really curious. Okay, I gotta know ETN. What do we think? Do we like their electrolyte drinks?
oh, BPN is I want to say you're okay there. We would need to double check that.
I do know their sleep gummies. I was shocked because I bought some sleep gummies a while ago to try, and they have magnesium
Citrate.
citrate,
Okay.
the one that makes you poop. And I was like, why are they putting this
Oh,
in? Why are they putting this magnesium into their
well,
gummies?
because that's what a
It's
lot of people use magnesium at nighttime for that to regulate bowels.
no, maybe that's why then. Okay, sweet. More,
So
more
yeah.
out for VPN then. We're good. Everyone, we're good on VPN. Don't take that during the day then. Although I did, yeah. I'm curious on two things. Does any of so for someone who's trying to just stay hydrated like during the day, daily hydration,
Yeah.
you're not going to take 500 milligrams of sodium per hour, probably,
Yeah. No.
right? Just how does that change, I guess, for just
Yeah.
daily hydration?
Yeah. So this is going to be dependent on what the time of year, how much you're outside. If you are in the Midwest, which, you are, and it's middle of summer and you're outside for 4 hours a day, like please supplement with some sodium because it's humid and you're going to be sweating. But generally, unless it's someone that's working outside and is outside the majority of the day, like I don't generally have people supplement during the day because we're eating and we're getting sodium sources of food in. Training and race days are a little bit different because even though we are eating, it's generally not food sources that are as high in sodium.
Okay, yeah,
So,
because
but it's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't
Go ahead.
I don't usually put electrolytes into my drinks. I might do like a Nutridyne like hydration that has like 90 milligrams of sodium, but it's
Yeah.
mainly like vitamins.
Yeah.
I might do that, but I usually just do water. So I was curious if I need to like change that at all, and like for like
Y-
during the
I don't
day.
I don't think so. And 90 milligrams is nothing. I mean, that's very small amount. So that wouldn't, uh, impact you negatively. But yeah, it just totally depends on now if you're going to go out, if it's summer and you're going to go out side and do something outside for most of the day, recreational like boating or something like that. Like, yeah, probably have some electrolytes at that point. But just for like normal day to day operations, it's probably not necessary for most.
Yeah.
Brooke, does it change with pregnancy? Because I hear a lot about how increasing sodium helps with like morning sickness, for example.
Oh, okay. So you mean sodium increases related to training or just kind of like in general?
I guess both. Like, I'm guessing after like taking the test and having the genetic component to it, yes, I guess when you are training, like if a mom is pregnant, do
Yeah.
the needs go up at all or does it stay the same from what you've seen?
Um, I think it would again be reliant on the sweat rate. And that what I would hold true with that ratio that was already determined. Um, Sweat rate is probably going to go up in pregnancy just due to depending on where the woman is in her pregnancy, right? If she's out for a run with a, 8 month, baby in the tummy, you're going to probably be sweating more, that kind of thing. So I would probably look at it that way is like, okay, what is my sweat rate increasing? Then my sodium needs would increase as a result of that. It's always a fine balance, right? And a lot of times when I first started doing the precision hydration testing, it was a long time ago, and especially with, like, the ultra running community, people would come in and be like, "I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know. I don't think I need anything besides water," right? And if I do start consuming more sodium during my training, aren't I gonna end up with high blood pressure and that kinda thing? And I would explain to them that, "No, you are not sitting on the couch and eating, drinking sports drinks or taking in a lot of sodium, like, you're actually out losing it by sweating. So if you're losing it, just similar to, like, carb intake, right? So if you go out and do a 4-hour run and you're not replacing carbohydrate, you're gonna have a problem. Same thing with sodium too. So, I think that you don't wanna go overboard, with sodium no matter what kind of stage of life you're at, but if you're out being active and losing it, then you need to be replacing it.
Thank you. Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Last question on hydration, because I know
Okay.
you're totally not sick of talking about it yet.
No, I
Uh,
love it.
do you need to do anything like hydration load? Do you like
Mm.
hydration loading? Like you would carbo load before a race? Is there anything like that? Or making sure to like after a big effort to increase anything more, anything like that that makes a difference for actual races and like long runs and efforts and things like that.
Yeah, there is actually. And that's where when I was referencing like Javelina 100 or like let's use triathlon example, like the Kona Ironman World Championship, also a very like hot and humid race. Other lot of other races that are hot and or humid. Yes, you do want to sodium load. You do, because if you go into the race depleted, then if you're playing catch up the whole time, even if you have an hourly amount that you're targeting. And so you do want to take that into account and kind of load up in, the day before. I can't give away all of my secrets as far as what I have clients do, but a sodium preload is definitely a requirement or a recommendation when I work with people. And that protocol might vary a little bit depending on where they're going to be racing. And then again, um, sweat rate, the sweat composition would factor in there. So if it's somebody that loses that's high on both of those variables, then I would be like, okay, maybe we need to do, a couple different sodium preloads. So yeah, top off those stores. It makes sense.
Mhm.
I love it. I learned a lot about sweating today.
And it's about to snow again here, so
I know.
not thinking about sweating as much lately.
I
But
know.
okay,
Same.
Brooke, for people who it's their first time listening, we always end our episodes with asking what your we get to do this moment is. So a moment
Um,
when you're like, wow, I get to do this from any time in your life.
mm. So mine would be my hardest race to date was in Norway, and it's an extreme Ironman called Norseman, and it's so hard. Like, it is just next level difficulty. It was like 10,000 feet of climbing on the bike. Um, it's they call it an extreme Ironman because of the climate, the potential you know, precipitation that you could have. It could be raining or snowing or whatever. You jump off of a ferry while it's still dark out into the fjords. That was such a difficult day. And there were points of that day, like I got off my bike at the end of that bike and I was like, I don't ever want to see my bike again. Like I kind of pushed it. My support person was like, I'm done. But when I look back on it and during times during it, Norway is so beautiful. Like swimming, between the fjords, I was like bilateral breathing, like looking up at those huge fjords going, how am I here? How do I get to do this? So that would be mine. I have Norwegian heritage. And so that was just like the most exciting opportunity to be able to do that. So even though there was so much pain associated with it, and it was a very long day. Yeah, I get to do this, and keeping that attitude was helpful during.
Sounds like we're going to do that someday.
Norseman. Or we go see the-
I might go back with you guys, just so you know. I need to go back and do it a little differently.
All right.
if you got all your tips
That
and
can be our
training.
that can be our first Ironman. Pretty horrible idea for us, but
How can people find you and work with you? What's the best ways?
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. My business is Grit Sports Nutrition, so that's my website. It's also my social media handles, just Grit Sports Nutrition, and I try to keep the same photo throughout so you can easily identify me. And yeah, my email and my phone numbers on my website, and that's the best way.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
for being on with us, and I'm excited for our Norway trip. Okay.
yeah. And to talk about carbs.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Convince Brooke to come back on and talk about carbs. I would love to do that exact same thing with carbs. I'm so excited to re-listen to this.
Yeah, there's a
You
lot.
gotta talk about carbs to prepare for Norway. Like you're definitely gonna need carbs that day.
See?
There we go.
All right. We'll make it happen.
Thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully you learned just as much as we did, because that was awesome. So thank you all for being here, and thanks for being on with us, Brooke. We appreciate you.
Thank
We
you.
get to do this.
Wow, Kaylee, we made it through another episode. What do you think?
We would love if you would go give us a follow, a 5-star review, and comment on the episode and what you liked and what you'd like to see more of.
See you next time.
We get to do this.